SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. The wait is over.
Let's get this thing started.
Go!
Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. I welcome you all to episode 117 of the In or Out Sports Debate. I am your host, Drew Willingham, and we are back for the latest edition, and with somebody who was just here 10 episodes ago with 107. He's back, ready to rock and roll tonight on the In or Out Sports Debate, brought to you by
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Absolutely. And he is a six-time Vault of Fame inductee in fourth place for the most amount of appearances on this show. Give it up for my man, Korrey, man. Welcome back there, brother.
What's up? What's up? What's going on, SIRTOBA Media family? What's going on, Drew, man?
Hey, man, rocking and rolling with another great one out here in these streams as we are live on YouTube. X won't let us go live. And speaking of Elon Musk, now that we're in the intro, the opening of this show, what's happening? Why can we not go live on your platform, X? Are we just not that big enough on your platform? Sorry, but we're doing okay on other platforms. Just give us a break. Now that we are here, we got many things to go over tonight. It's just getting started. You and I have done this 6 times, 6 great times together on this show. And we can look back at all of that as we have to pay homage to many things on this show. You're part of it. I think you're going to like what I did with the Vault of Fame.
Acknowledge me.
I want to take this time to kind of shout you out, Drew. You have taken a concept and made it into a whirlwind of fun for a lot of people. I know for myself, dude, I am proud of you, man. I want you to continue to do what you're doing. But the concept that you came up with, how much you put into it, how much you've changed it, how much you add to it, the work shows, man. So kudos to yourself. Round of applause for you, man. And just wanted to say thank you for having me on again. It was a lot of fun. Look forward to the next one.
Shout out to Drew for letting me come on the show. It was a lot of fun. Honestly, didn't know what to expect coming into this, and I am super happy that I agreed to come on to this because it was a blast, well-produced show. Honestly, extremely impressed by all the effort you put into this show, Drew. Thank you for having me on, and I look forward to coming back on in the future.
Man, you took me back. This is why this show was so important, and this is why I am personally validating and vouching for this show. If you are anybody in media, sports, professional wrestling, anything, you need to be on In or Out Sports Debate with my man, Drew Willingham, because this has got to be one of the most fun things I've ever done in a long time.
Ladies and gentlemen, that right there is the In or Out Sports Debate Vault of Fame. You can check out the leaderboard right here through 116 previous episodes. Joey Raymond's in first, Rob Johnson in second, Kyle Nash in third, Darrell Owens in fourth, and right now, actually in fifth place, but about to move up to fourth place, is Korrey, man. You can check out SIRTOBA Media right here on all of these platforms listed right here when it comes to YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. You can check out SIRTOBA Media on all of those right there. And the unit that I used to have growing out from my scalp, it is now on its way to being somebody else's forever hair home. Now, back to this episode 117. Myself and Korrey, man, are ready to rock and roll with this show. We do have a few comments I think we need to acknowledge real quick. Sick Diggy's in the house and says, let the shenanigans run wild. My man Sick Diggy is in the house, and we have to give him a good welcome to the show. And that is...
What's that?
They got to get him. Got to get him with that. Take it back. 20 years now, y'all. That's almost 25 years old.
That's
It
crazy.
might be 25 years old. That's from the late 90s, I think.
Mhm.
Man, we're getting old out here in these streets.
Oh, my brother, testify.
There we are. As we're testifying out here for 117. That is the episode of the In or Out Sports Debate. As Ike is in the house and says, "What's up, fellas? What's up, Ike? Glad to have you back out here on the streams today, my man." As well as I remember someone calling this man Korrey. What the hell was up with that? You remember that? I actually forgot all about that till now.
I remember that. I really do remember that.
What the hell was up with that? I still, I looking back on that. I guess that person's out there saying,
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
I don't know. It's the wild stuff going on out there. We might get to a point where we have to dig deeper into it, where we're saying this.
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
Yeah, you know I'm going to have to make that into a reel at some point, probably. That's probably coming later tonight. Who knows what happens after this show? Guys, thank you for the comments. Keep them rolling as we have multiple people hitting us up here. We'll get to all the comments after our first round, but it's time. We're 7 minutes in, and we still haven't gotten to the first round. We got to talk a little bit of NBA basketball. And with all that being said, let's go and take this into round one.
Round one.
I say NBA basketball, but technically it's the Olympics, as it is the men playing from the NBA representing Team USA for this team, as Team USA men's basketball is ready to bring home the gold again in the 2024 Paris Olympics. We look at all the pre-tournament games, and we look at everything that's going on recently, especially with their game they just had yesterday. What are your thoughts on this? Are you going to buy into this? Are you going to go in, or are you going to say out on this?
I'm going to say in. Now, without question, today's basketball is probably more challenging worldwide than it has been ever before. When you have so many different players across the world, Jokic and Giannis and so many others that are branched out, Nikola Jovic from the Miami Heat, I had to shout that out. But those teams around the world are not just people that the U.S. can step over anymore. As they have been, let's say, the last maybe 5 to 10 Olympics, So, I mean, all the way back to the Dream Team, when you think about it, right? So when you see this team that's out there right now, no question, do we have the right or maybe the best pieces available in the NBA in order to make that gold medal run? But how this team meshes is going to be what is the resolve of it. Now, there is one constant on this team since 2004, and his name is LeBron James.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Here we go.
He's been on there since 2004. And let's be real about this, okay? They're going to go as far as he leads them. Now, if he steps back, okay, and if he lets Chef Curry with the pot handle business, maybe a couple of games here and there, not a problem. But I'm looking at overall leadership-wise, and I'm looking at the first 3 exhibition games. I'm looking at practices. They're in awe of what LeBron can do at 40 years old and whatnot. This team will go as far as LeBron leads it. Plain and simple. They're in awe of this man. He's 22 years into the league now. It's just prime for them to do it. Now, if the U.S. sits here and they BS around, they can get beat. Okay? It's without question. If they BS around, they can get beat. But if they go out there and defend and they run the floor, there's nobody in the world that can keep up with them, that can deal with them. With all those different pieces that we have, there's no way. So I definitely say it's in as long as they don't play with their food. If they come suit and tie, ready to go, they can handle business.
You brought many great points to that. And for your sake, I hope all that comes true. But you left a lot of open points, and you know where I'm going to go with this part. I am about to do my best to decimate you on this. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to go out. You come up here preaching about Yo King. You come up here preaching about Yo King on the In or Out Sports Debate, Korrey Mann. After everything you've heard me preach on this program 6 previous times, you know, we've talked about this man on many occasions and his son, and about the fact that his son sucks. And look at what's happening in Summer League. Yes, I know I'm going off the rails, not talking about Team USA, but you wanted to build your point strongly around LeBron James, or however you said it. LeBust! No, I take that back. I'll reel it back in. He's not a bust, okay? I might have gotten a little emotionally charged with that one. LeBron James is not a bust, okay? He's had a lengthy career. He's also played in a pussified era of basketball. Things have changed a lot. If Michael Jordan had the rules like this and the way this basketball was played back in the 90s, he would have averaged 50 points a game. He would have had more than 6 mother-father championships, okay? Now, you want to talk about LeBron James being part of Team USA since 2004. Let's look at the Dream Team. Yes, they did have some older people on there. They did disclude, and he didn't involve Isaiah Thomas. Okay, there's a lot of different things that you can compare and contrast that with. Look at Kawhi Leonard. He didn't even want to be a part of this team. He saw the writing was on the wall, but at the same time, he's got his own issues. I'll leave that for discussion at another point. When you have somebody who's going to be 40 years old in December, being the best player on the team, carrying them to these wins against some dumpster Pelican-esque teams in this tournament that they have faced, barely squeaking out wins here and there in the preliminary games. We're not even at the tournament yet. They're going to have some ego problems along the way. Chef, yeah, he's good with doing his job in the background and not making the noise, but when you have to surround this team around a man who's about to become 40 years old, a man who has now played over 2 decades of professional basketball, and as you said and just previously stated, been playing within the Olympic Games for the past 20 years, and he is the centerpiece of your team, and you're relying on him, just like the Lakers' future is relying on Bronny James. Yo, Prince! The heir to the throne of Yo King! Now back to Team USA basketball, because Korrey Mann, I think you did this on purpose to fire me up. I see the point you made, and you built everything up around Yo King! LeBron James. Now, if you guys watch this show on a Friday or Saturday night and you don't have to work the next day and you have the opportunity to do it, I dare you to take a shot every time I say, Yo, King! Okay? Because this alone, you built your whole defense around a 40-year-old basketball player that if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't be as relevant in these games as you would like them to. Because look at the production everybody else is putting forth. Look at people who are 30 years old, like Joel Embiid. Like, look at people who, technically, he could be playing for another country, but because his son was born here, he wants to represent USA, and I'm not going to fault him for that. But he's playing like he might be Jonte Porter getting tipped off. Look at that. Might be some bets going on. I don't know. I'll reel that back in. No, I don't want to say that completely out there and put that kind of shade on him. But what I will say is this. If you didn't have a near 40-year-old who's going to be 40 in less than 5 months, putting up the production that he's doing, I don't think that they would be anywhere close to the gold. And the only way they're going to get a gold this year is if they remain consistent based on how LeBron's playing. If he tweaks a hip here, if he, because I'm telling you, he could be in all these hyperbolic chambers all he wants to. but it's not going to fix everything. You are almost 40. Father Time's going to catch up to you. And I know Max Kellerman was catching heat when he was saying this about Tom Brady many years ago. But the game of football and the game of basketball is totally different. Football, you have more opportunities for the impact. It's like being in a car wreck. But there's only so much running and jogging and juking and jiving you can do on those joints. It always wears down the best of athletes, no matter who you are, no matter how tall you are, no matter how skinny you are, no matter how greatest of shape of all time. Okay. Could Tom Brady have still played another year or two in the NFL? Yes. But even he knew that he was giving it like 1,000% and doing all the different things with Alex Guerrero and the pregame and the postgame work to work on his body to be ready. There's only but so much time you can afford to devote to that. And eventually, all this prep work that goes on behind the scenes, with all the extra massages, not the Deshaun Watson style massages, but you got to be revved up now, Korrey, man. All the prep work that you have to put in behind the scenes to keep your body ready. There's only but so much LeBron's going to be able to do before his body gives out. And it might not happen in the Olympics. It's already happening during the regular season because he has to have a talented roster full of stars in order to be the top contending team in the world or in the league. Because you see with what he's doing in the NBA with just, AD and a couple other pieces, and soon to be Yo Prince playing alongside Yo King.
I tell you what, man,
is doomed, Korrey, and I'm telling you, do not be surprised if they don't even stand on the podium.
I have a hard time believing that because they got too many weapons. Sometimes you can't get through with just your talent. It happens. Other squads are going to come out and play hard because they tired of the U.S. winning and whatnot. And sometimes you can just luck up just based off your talent. But let's be real about it. If they didn't have LeBron right now, there is no sign that this team is showing that they can produce. There's no sign. So with LeBron not being there to be the glue, like when they had that game against Lord, what is that team where they won by a point or two?
Germany.
Come back. Thank you. Like, come on. Like, that was ridiculous. Y'all should have been blowing them out of here. Mm-hmm. They don't even have like actual basketball courts and stuff to practice on, which is crazy. US, I just feel like they're just playing with their food. Now, you know how I feel about LaFlop. You know how I feel.
So I think you said that to get me riled up. I think that's
you know how I feel about LaFlop. But I think about it like you talk about the dream team. I honestly, in my whole humble opinion, think that the best USA men's basketball team of all time is that Redeem team. Mm-hmm. That boy, Dwayne Wade, could not be stopped. He was a menace on both sides of the floor. The type of continuity they had, like it was too many people for you to focus on. And at that point, you really think about it. If you didn't really need a leader to stand out, for them to all understand what the mission was, because coming into it, they were like, we're not losing no matter what. I don't care how nobody feels, what nobody thinks. We got to come back because we just got our butts kicked 4 years prior. And we got to come in here and knock everybody's socks off. And that's exactly what they did. So, it's while it really just, it hurts me to really say all of that, Drew. It really does. But I have to speak what I see. And what I see is that this team is not going anywhere without LeBron.
No, you're absolutely right. So it was good that we had a topic that we could go back and forth on for a little bit because we, especially at the beginning of the show, because you brought that stuff out of me because we know how you feel about LaFlop, like you said, because I was leaving the door open for you to say because I've heard you say it before. Okay. And it also, the way you delivered, it was great because it left me the opportunity to talk about Yo Prince, even though he has nothing to do with Team USA. But all of that in the background is affecting LeBron. So he might not be saying anything about it publicly. But when you internalize things and you don't find a way to express them in a healthy way, they're going to affect you one way or another. In the mind, being, the mind can lead to physical issues as well, and physical injuries. Like we could talk about that and debate that topic as well. So who's to say that all this stuff with Yo Prince isn't affecting the man behind the scenes to where he snaps a twig before we even get to games that could affect them being on the podium or not. I'm talking about a bronze. LeBron's. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about the silver medal. I'm talking about the gold mother, father, and medal. Talk about all three types of medals, the most important medals, and the most important one is the gold medal. So right here and now, I mean, you're saying gold. I'm going to go on a limb and say, I'm probably going to be wrong with that when I say this, but I'm going to say they don't even make it to the podium.
So you're saying they're going to get the equivalent of the 24/7 championship is basically what you're saying. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, hey, upsets happen before, and when you're only beating Germany by 2 points, and you had to rely on LeBron to win the game by 2 points.
Yeah, and
you just did what you did to Serbia and all that good stuff. I mean, I'm with you on what happened yesterday. I mean, I'm not angry at it, and to be honest, like this is one of those for the sake of debate topics, to be honest, because we can't agree with everything. This is a debate show. Yeah. But there's going to be people out there in the comments. We already got 10 comments up from the last time we acknowledged the comments, and we'll get to here in a second that we have to, discuss within this topic. But, well said, on both sides. Let's see what you guys say here in the comments. And we got my man out here. We got you out here saying what's up to everybody here in the comments. Got your other half here saying what's up. So we appreciate you as well for the support. And, looking forward to seeing what we got here down the road with everybody else's comments as well. Keep coming. The Wazir has to be 25 years old. I remember it best with the phone call scene from Scary Movie, as well as Wazir headbutt by the Dudley Boys back in 2000 during the Attitude Era.
You gotta love it. You gotta love nostalgia. You gotta love it.
That was our that was like our formative years. We're watching the Attitude Era. We're growing up as kids, and it's part of how we're here today. So, looking at all that, now I say that's a good call there, Sick. D. Willie about to obliterate the man formerly known as Korrey. He had to bring that up again.
Okay, Ike. Okay.
Because as soon as you started going in with it, this was at 9:26. This is probably around the time of LeBron James. You're saying it like that. That's probably where all that came from. But no, that was great. Six saying, I'm out. Basketball has been global for the past 30 plus years. You've also seen the game evolve throughout Europe. Secondly, Team USA is overall too old and too winded. And I saw this comment right here as I was doing the whole Yo Kang stuff with you. And I wanted to save this here because Sick brings a very valid point to this.
He does.
I mean, the age. And the women's team is looking really well. Like if this was a topic talking about the WNBA team that's formed for Team USA, okay, for women's basketball, I would say yes in a heartbeat because they look phenomenal. They didn't look phenomenal against Team WNBA in that expedition game because the younger stars beat them, but that also gives you hope for what 4 years from now could look like with the talent that's on Team WNBA coming to the Olympics as well. So there's a lot of different things that come with that, but I'm going to save the WNBA topic for next week because, we'll get into who all is coming next week, but the topics that we have tonight, because we don't get to talk about wrestling too much on In or Out Sports Debate. And now that you're here, gives me an excuse to talk about it tonight. So I had to save those topics. Sorry, WNBA and women's basketball, but I was being selfish a little bit because I wanted to talk wrestling with my man over here, talk about what's happening out here in these streets. Right here, right now, Sick brings up a very valid point, and it's kind of like the additional layers with what I was building with my foundation to debate what you were saying with this last topic. But you make some solid arguments. If this was a team that was assembled 4 years ago, where LeBron's 35 and not 39 going on 40, 35 going on 36, and you have Steph Curry, who's even younger than that, and Anthony Davis, everybody else has put a lot of mileage on their body, a lot of different things. COVID and all that affected everything back in 2020. So we haven't really seen a true Team USA basketball team since 2016. Like, this is the first legit basketball team for Team USA, in my opinion, since 2016. And even that team is nothing in comparison to what you're talking about with the Redeem team and Dwayne Wade and everything you brought up, because that team was great. But the problem with that is you got people playing on this team that played on that team that aren't any younger, that aren't playing like they did back then. LeBron's better at passing the ball and has an IQ for the game that's like Tom Brady of the NFL and game of football. Okay. He would be someone who it would be nice to listen to games called by if he ever were to decide to do that. But he's bigger than that. I believe he probably wouldn't do that. I'd be surprised if he did, but it'd be a similar aspect to the game that you would be interested in listening to somebody break down the game with his mind. Now, playing the game at age 39 for Team USA and beating the leader and being the number one guy is a huge problem. So that's why, Sick, you bring up some very great points with that. He says, I doubt Team USA will even make the podium. See, we're talking about that. He's also echoing my sentiments. In fact, I think LeBron James will be an albatross around the neck of Team USA collectively.
No, that's asinine. That's asinine. We got to stop that. We got to stop that. All right. I am not the LaFlop fan. Okay. When he came to Miami, I was like, cool, we'll take him, but I could care less. That type thing. Like, if we had Melo instead of him, I would have been even more happy because I'm more of a Melo fan than I am a LeBron fan. Right. Excuse me. But like, I mean, it's asinine. That is asinine. No, he won't be the albatross. I'll tell you that. If anything, the coaching will be.
Sick Diggy, I think, might have gotten under your skin, but to the point we have to make this point.
You can't handle the truth.
No.
See, and now you're over there saying,
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no, no.
I'm just saying, like we could just we can recognize all the things that LeBron has not done, right? We can compare him to Jordan all day long. And I think that sometimes we unfairly compare him to Jordan, though. And what I mean by that is, like, we're not looking at it player to player. We're looking at it at circumstance to circumstance, decade to decade, team to team. Who gives a crap about any of that? Them two as players, do we really legit witness the greatness that we are getting right now? Because when this man is done, who is taking the mantle?
That's a really good question, because it surely isn't going to be Prince.
At all. He's going to be riding the bitch.
Oh, yeah, I'm making a reel out of that. That was great. All right, now, when it comes to the Redeem team being in Beijing, 2008 was led by Kobe Bryant and Dwayne Wade. Yes, and unfortunately, neither one of them are in the game of basketball, and we already know what happened with Kobe, so it's very unfortunate. You don't have talent like that on this team. LeBron is like a generational talent like them, but to take the absence away of them from the Redeem team, you'd have to have someone with the combined skills of the two of them in one body. And even that's not even enough, because you really need to have two of them in order to play two different positions. There's a lot more that goes into that. And you don't have a complementary piece to add to LeBron that's of his level or of Kobe Bryant or Dwayne Wade's level, because you have one of those two with LeBron. I'll give you that at least. Okay. And I'm giving him a lot of credit. And even though we do have a comment here saying LeBron hate is crazy, it is, but it's very much warranted at the same time, because he opened his mouth and put his foot in his mouth when he wanted to compare his own self to Michael Jordan. Okay. Until you win 6 championships. Okay. You cannot talk about yourself like Michael Jordan. You can compare yourself and talk to about yourself with like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, because you are the leading scorer in NBA history. But there are valid points to where somebody can say he is not the actual GOAT. So, and the current team has an often injured Anthony Davis on the roster. Absolutely. That's Team USA and the LA Lakers. So very valid points that we have out here. And I didn't expect that to go 30 minutes with the intro and, everything else, including round one. We definitely crushed it with that right there. But before we go to round two, we actually do have some breaking news that we have to bring on in. That breaking news is this. Next week, same time, same place. Episode 118 of the In or Out Sports Debate will be here. Another Trios edition. Kyle Nash will be returning, as well as new panelist from his Huddle Up podcast, where the two of them talk on a regular basis about all things sports, mainly football. Big Jim from Big Jim Sports comes on down to discuss a lot of stuff here on next week's edition of the In or Out Sports Debate, episode 118. Right now, we have episode 117. My man, Korrey, Mann, and myself are here for another 4 rounds of the In or Out Sports Debate, brought to you by
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Go and take this into round 2.
Round 2.
And here with round 2, a team that Korrey knows very, very well. And this is the Atlanta Falcons. And they made a lot of moves this past offseason. You think about the fact that quarterback Michael Penix Jr. will end up leading the Atlanta Falcons to the playoffs in 2024 with Kirk Cousins right there looking in the background. What are your thoughts to this? Do you think this could potentially happen? Are you in or are you out on this one?
Drew, I'm not going to say it. I think you're going to guess it by the gesture I'm about to make. 1 second. Absolutely, to borrow Drew's words, mother, father, and not. Absolutely not. We don't have time for this. All right. The whole pick at number 8 was crazy right off the bat. Okay. I understand we're trying to secure our future, but we spent $100+ million on Kirk Cousins. Now, I do understand that, okay, we got to secure our future. We got to secure our future, blah, blah, blah. Kirk Cousins just coming off the Achilles injury, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if you were that concerned about it, why did you pay him $100 and something million? I don't understand it. The math ain't mathing for me. So I need to get an explanation from the Falcons on this situation. Now, what I will say is that even though Kirk Cousins hasn't really had a breakout performance in the playoffs yet, I will say he is consistent during the regular season. He has shown to be a winner during the regular season. He still can throw the deep ball. He's not the most agile, but he'll be able to get to the ball to our playmakers. So that is what's been missing from the Falcons since Matt Ryan left. Is someone that's just able to get the ball to our playmakers. We have too many young studs on our team to be so stagnant on offense. And honestly, the offense is what held us back last year. Our defense was in the top 15, if I remember correctly, last year, as far as making sure that we give the ball back to our offense. Now, we gave up a lot of yards, but when it came to the red zone, not a lot of people scored on us. So we have a lot to do on that side of the ball. And I will say that, it goes without saying, left-handed quarterbacks have not been super successful since, Steve Young?
Yes.
So, I don't have a lot of faith in it, to be honest with you, Drew. I really do not. Hopefully he proves me wrong, because I would love to see the Falcons win a Super Bowl in my lifetime. That would make me ever so happy. But in the same token, I got to go with the here and now. He should not be starting. He shouldn't even be thinking about playing. Boy, sit your tail on that bench over there with LeBron's prance and wait your turn if you get a turn. Hopefully Kirk can do what he's supposed to do, and we can get back into that playoff scene where we belong.
You described all that like you might have been watching this earlier and listening to my take about the left-handed quarterback, and especially with Steve Young. So I had to give a shout out to Darrell, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the episode, as there were shout outs to you and others as well. It was a great episode, but I still have to stay on task and respond to what you're saying. and you went without, and reasonably so. You're talking to a man who spent a lot of time watching Cousins as a backup quarterback.
Don't you dare.
And
dare.
you know this is a debate show, and we're going to agree about something at some point, but I was kind of hoping that you would go out on this so that way I could go in. The time has come, Korrey, man. Here we are. We talk about Kirk Cousins and the tales of woe with that man throughout time. Let me bring you back up here for a second. I know you're in disbelief right now. You cannot believe this blasphemous take that I'm about to take us on an epic ride of events that we are about to have with the man known as Kirk Cousins. It's the third time he's been with a different team in the NFL. He's been a part of this journey in the NFL for quite some time. Starting out with the formerly known as the Redskins, a team that you and I both know I have covered for quite some time and been a fan of for even longer than that. And I can tell you, you've seen it in reels and seen it in real life, where I will just straight up tell you if they suck, okay? I have not once in my adulthood or even as a teenager, it maybe since I was 5, said they were going to the Super Bowl, which was the last time they were actually in the Super Bowl and won, okay? All of this makes a point and comes back to Kirk Cousins, okay? Kirk Cousins, part of this team back in the early 2010s. Drafted the same year as RG3, was a part of that magical rookie year that he had. You know, number 1 in the league, rookie of the year. We already know what happened at the end of that. Tweaked his knee, so on and so forth. We saw how good RG3 was coming out of college. Now, Kirk Cousins eventually showed that the potential that he had was worth it to where he could be a starting quarterback. But we saw how much time that it took for old Kirk Cousins to get there, right? So let's look at this man for a second. He spent 6 seasons, 5 seasons, actually, my apologies, with the Washington Commanders, formerly known as the Redskins. And he did well enough to where he earned a bank contract with the Minnesota Vikings. Spent another 5 years there, in his 10, 11 years there between the Commanders or Redskins, then with the Vikings, and now moving to the Falcons. He's only a 4-time Pro Bowler. We're talking about this man like he's been somewhere and accomplished big things and won the Super Bowl or been the MVP in the entire league or even a Rookie of the Year, which he wasn't because RG3 was. Now, it's going to come full circle. Guess who's going to be the Rookie of the Year this year? It's not going to be Michael Penix Jr. I'm not even going to go take it to that route because that in itself would be a blasphemous take, okay? What I do see happening here and why I have you back on this screen is this man who was only the NFL completion percentage leader in 2015, the Bart Starr Award winner in 2023, and, that was the only awards that he ever won in the NFL in his entire time that he's been here. I can see him getting this team similar to where the Vikings were last year, to where even when he got hurt midway point in the season, by the end of it, they were still a good enough team that they were still in the playoff chase within the last couple of weeks of the season until they just lost enough. Because remember, they made trades for it was Josh Johnson or whoever it was that they brought in to be the quarterback. There was their 4th string option, but still they had a chance with like week 16 or 17 to still mathematically be in the playoffs. And he hadn't played in like almost 2 months at that point because they started so hot. I can see his leadership because what he has built himself into over the years. I could see him leading this team to a similar run that they had last year with Minnesota, where they start out really good, get to week 8, week 9, snaps a twig, or something happens with some type of injury, because he has proven in Washington, in Minnesota, and now potentially with the 3rd team that he is injury prone in many ways. Not to the point to where RG3 and he never comes back, but he's been known to miss some time here and there. Who's to say by week 8, 9, 10, potentially a little later in the season, he gets hurt. But there's still like 4 or 5 games left to play. And you got a quarterback who has been to the national championship game twice, back-to-back years, leading a team that nobody thought would get there, a team in Washington, okay? Gets drafted in a place, into a city, into a team that nobody predicted him to get drafted to, not even you. It's probably my best Atlanta Falcons insider that I've had on this show's history. You didn't even predict Michael Penix Jr. to go there. And a lot of people predicted Kirk Cousins to go there, and he's coming off of a pretty tough injury that it's not like he suffered in game 1 4 snaps in like Aaron Rodgers did with the Jets. He was halfway through the season, so he's had less time to recover and rehabilitate. So who's to say that you threw this bank at Kirk Cousins? He is 36 years old. He gets hurt at some point in the season. Michael Penix comes in with 4 to 5 games, maybe even more left. Struggles the first game or so. But then, and I'm saying then, he is going to lead his team into the first round of playoffs. And what if this is a situation where Matt Flynn got that contract in 2012, the Seattle Seahawks? 4 years, it was a 3-year, $19.5 million contract. Because I was just talking about this earlier on Total Football Talk. That's why it's fresh in my head. And who was a rookie that year and stepped up and took the job? Good old Russell Wilson, who's about to lose his job in Pittsburgh to a young Justin Fields in his early career coming from Chicago to Pittsburgh. There's a lot of full circle moments that could start with Atlanta, Washington being the head of it back in 2012, and it's all coming full circle 12 years later for myself. And you're a part of the ride now because the Atlanta Falcons are there, and you have now got me wrapped up back-to-back rounds, and I was part of it because the way I wrote the show. So what do you have to say to that, my man? Because we are on fire tonight.
It's ridiculous. That's what I got to say about it. That is ridiculous. That is asinine. That is egregious. Put it in here. Put it here. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm not saying another word. You know what? You've known my history and what I used to do, and I'm gonna give it to you right now. Here's what's about to happen right here. See you later.
Korrey walked off the set as he is absolutely dumbfounded by my take here on episode 117 of the In or Out Sports Debate. Guys, we got a few comments. We got acknowledged before we take it to a commercial break and cool off for a second. When it comes to Ike says they overpaid for a backup quarterback. I know you like to walk off of stuff when I'm throwing stuff at you, but what do you got to say to Ike real quick? Camera's on you. What about Cousins' wife got us here?
I do agree with that because she got tired of that stupid Minnesota life. She was too cold. She needed to be somewhere where she could live her best life and they warm up a little bit. Why down Atlanta? Hot Atlanta.
Oh, my brother, testify.
When it comes to Michael Penix Jr., though, Eric Bryant's in the house. Thank you for tuning in to
What's
the
up,
show.
man?
Guys who are tuning into SIRTOBA Media for the first time, if you would do us all a favor, click that like button and subscribe to the channel because there's going to be more of Korrey that you'll see on this show at some point. He's been here 6 times before, and you never know how things are going to pop up out here in these streams. But he says Falcons going to win the South regardless who is at quarterback, who is at QB1. Do you think that is very true? If what I said, I know you disagree with a lot of the points that I made to defend my topic. Okay. What if it does happen? What if what I'm saying that something similar to that happens?
The saving grace to that, though, Drew, is that the fact that we did spend money on receiver this offseason.
Yes.
So our offensive line is not like elite, but they are like middle of the pack. They're not horrible. So do I feel like we can show up possibly, our right tackle situation, maybe the inside a little bit? Maybe. I don't have all the faith in the world in Caleb McGarry. He's too up and down. Lindstrom and Matthews is kind of like our anchors on that offensive line. So our offensive line is not terrible. So they can protect the quarterback. And then the thing is, though, with that type of offensive line, they nasty. And we got two nasty running backs between Algier and Bijan. So with adding Darnell Mooney and others, this offseason, along with Pitts in London, our offense should be dynamic with whoever is back there. So, I mean, I definitely can agree with that.
I say that was a good statement to throw in there about the QB1, and we'll have to see how things pan out. There's a lot of different moving pieces that happen this offseason, whether it be the draft, free agency, and we're going to see starting this week. The Hall of Fame game is this Thursday between the Bears and the Texans. NFL is finally back. It's been a while. And it's going to be a few more weeks till we see some meaningful action. But 3 to 4 weeks. But the fact that we still get to see even glorified practice scrimmage games on TV, and we get to see who could be the potential future of the team. Not so much those who have the hype on starting this upcoming week or week 1 or week 2, but as the preseason goes on, we're going to see the ones developed who are going to actually stick with this team and make an impact at some point. And every team is going to have that wild card. Just depends on who they're going to select this year and who they're going to cut, and then who will be available for other teams to sign as the ones who were discarded from others. So there's a lot of moving pieces between now and the end of August. So that exciting time of the year is now back. It's like another part of Christmas, another part of holiday, whichever holiday you celebrate out there. It's like that time of year. If you're a football fan right now, it's what it feels like. But through 2 rounds, we've disagreed. It's been a heated up first 2 rounds here within the start of this show, but we got to take a quick commercial break. When we come on back, we're going to get through round 3 and round 4, and we've got another epic one ahead of us for the final round. We'll see you guys here after the first commercial break.
All it takes is a little push to come along, send you in the right direction. And all of a sudden you understand all you had to do all along is revel in what you are.
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $sign DWillie87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Drew Willingham.
In this case, yeah, you put the blame on Kyle Shanahan for apparently not preparing the team enough for the overtime rules, supposedly.
Cole Johnson.
Peyton was considered the winner, and he was the darling of all darlings for Gerald.
With a special appearance by Tyrone Alizé McDummy.
Ain't nobody calling me. Text. Delete!
Join these 2 football enthusiasts as they give you Total Football Talk. Live every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central on the SIRTOBA Media and the Komey Media YouTube channels.
Welcome back to the In or Out Sports Debate, episode 117, brought to you by
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
which you can find here on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and X at these listed platforms. But right now, we are here for episode 117 of the In or Out Sports Debate, and I didn't even realize that we had the round 2 banner up this entire time. Everybody gets one per day. We are live, so you're just going to have to give your boy a break out here in these streams. With that being said, we'll go ahead and take this into round 3. Speaking of head-to-head action, we got to discuss a little bit of professional wrestling.
Round 3.
Looking into a faction that the history behind it, Korrey and I are both huge fans of. And with that being said, Chad Gable's involvement with the Wyatt Sicks will propel the faction to a new level. When you think about what we've seen with how this was created, you know, the lineage behind it. What are your thoughts with this one, Korrey? Are you in or are you out on this one?
I would say I struggled with this one a little bit, Drew. I struggled with it a little bit. And I will have to say that I'm out on this. And the very reason that I am out on this is because of this person over here to my left, up and above here, behind me, you know, this way. This man has set a standard. And don't get me wrong, there's some people that did not like him, and it's cool. If he was not for you, he's not for you. That is fine. You know, I have no problem with it. The problem I get with people when they share their opinions is that they feel like they have to get disrespectful. You don't have to get disrespectful just to say you don't like something. But his legacy was already at a certain level. And honestly, I almost feel like, I can't say this for certain because I feel like I would be speaking out of turn if I did. But I feel as if this would have been successful regardless of who they were opposing, because people love this type of stuff. They love Bray. They love the reality of the characters. I think that's the success that's going on right now, though, with the Wyatt Sicks. The Wyatt Sicks has not forgotten the fact that they are people. They're not this superhuman character that can't nobody beat. We just saw Bo Dallas get tossed around the ring like a rag doll a couple weeks ago. You know, so this group would be successful regardless, just because of the fandom. Now, how it is being sustained, of course, the stories and how they are handled matters. But I think starting out, I think that it did not matter who opposed them. Nobody was going to hate them. Nobody was going to boo them. Like, you had to have a heel to go against this group. It probably at no point in time in their time of being in the WWE will they be a heel, because too many people love Bray. So I'm definitely out on this, even though Chad has been freaking amazing. That Sister Abigail he sold last week, oh my gosh, one of the best I have ever seen, you know. So he's been essential to helping them get established, but the Wyatt Sicks definitely would have the same amount of success that they're having right now if they were opposed anyone else. And that is strictly off of the back and the legacy of Mr. Wyndham Rotunda himself. Rest in peace.
You know, as fun as it's been to combat you through the first 2 rounds, I just cannot do it with this one. No, for sake of the debates, I agree with you on this one. I'm going to go out. One of the things that's brought Korrey and I's friendship together has been our mutual, you know, love and respect for the character for Bray Wyatt and the story that was developed from the beginning. You know, and even though there were some parts throughout that we didn't really approve of, that we would have seen handled in different ways during the time that everything was going on while he was still with us, you know, didn't change our initial fanhood for the character, because it's the closest thing we got. And on a new level, when it came to, when you think of The Undertaker and Kane from, you know, the Attitude Era, those of us who were fans of all that stuff back in the Attitude Era, we're definitely going to be fans of Bray Wyatt. Now, our guy went from this right here, Okay, yes, I do have the action figure because you can say whatever you want about me being a grown man with the action figure, but it's gonna be worth some money someday. Okay, so when you look at this, as soon as no offense, but the day he died, I actually ordered these because they were still a reasonable price on Amazon, and now you go look for them and they're either not available or they're a stupid price. So this is the Firefly Funhouse with Huskus, and you can change the hands. And then I was able to also get the Fiend. Okay, so I got the Fiend with the mask and stuff too. And Korrey was, not with me when I went to Philly last December. When I went to go see Lance Anawai's event and do the little interview, which still thinking back on it, I still have to post some of that stuff from there. But the biggest thing that I got that'll support what I'm about to say, and I know this is a long-winded one, but I also have this painting, of Bray Wyatt with the lantern that the guy was asking $150 for, but I only had $40 cash, and because I was one of the few that was doing the things with media, and I told him my story of where I drove 5 hours from where I was in Virginia, where where I'm at, but I drove from there to Philly, straight there, got to the hotel, jumped in the shower, was there for 37 minutes between shower changing and got to the event. The guy gave me this for $40. That's all I had in my wallet, and he knew that I drove far. So that guy hooked me up with this. This is the Bray Wyatt painting. So what I'm about to say, don't get it twisted based on, the fanhood and the things that Korrey said and the things that I'm about to tell you. If there's anybody that can propel the Wyatt Sicks to another level, it's going to be the one person in here that was the closest to him and to Bray Wyatt, the character and the human being, and that being his younger brother. That being Bo Dallas as we know him on screen, but Taylor Rotunda off screen, because there was a lot of ideas. If you go back and you watch the documentary, there's a lot of discussions back and forth between the two brothers from what it looks like, even though there's very limited interview, footage that we got from Wyndham himself. It was mainly others telling the story on their perspective, but on how they knew of it because of being around him. The one who was the closest with him was his own brother. Okay. And even though Eric Rowan worked with him for quite some time, Rome was, he was let go from the company. And even though Bo Dallas wasn't on screen, he was still very much involved with things behind the scene, and mainly when it came to the development of the Firefly Funhouse Bray, helping out behind the scenes with that. And then, of course, with the Uncle Howdy character that we got for the last incarnation of the Bray Wyatt character. There were so many different levels to that story that wouldn't be possible without his younger brother, right? So the one person who's going to propel this story to what it is, like you said, is great of work that Chad Gable has done and deserves his new contract more than probably anybody else who's been re-signed. Not new contract, but re-signed within the company, okay? He has been killing it, and he deserves to not only get an Intercontinental or U.S. Championship, but deserves to be at least in contention. Maybe not necessarily winning it, but being in contention for the World Championship. Not necessarily the WWE Championship, but Raw's version, and that being the World Championship. So looking at that, that's a whole different discussion based on this, because the Wyatt Sicks is going to go beyond Chad Gable. And I feel like, Triple H has in the back of his mind, because of what happened with Wyndham, with the Bray Wyatt character, and the things that he wanted to achieve, the things that certain levels that they wanted that character to get to are going to be posthumously celebrated through his brother and the Uncle Howdy character, just like we got when Rey Mysterio was treated that way when Eddie Guerrero passed away almost 20 years ago. Okay. We saw him win the World Championship. Does that mean that Bo Dallas is going to be the WWE champion as Uncle Howdy? I don't think so. But could we see him and Chad Gable in the future feuding over it, with Uncle Howdy potentially being the champion? I could see it, because you got smaller people. I wouldn't say smaller because he is a little bit bigger, but you got people like Seth Rollins, who isn't far outside of that size, who is the one who started the World Championship, and built it to what it is now with the Prestige. You're going to more than likely have Gunther beat Damian Priest at SummerSlam. If not, if they do find a way for him to beat him clean, then the next pay-per-view in Gunther's backyard, he's going to win the championship.
Oh, yeah.
Now Braun Breaker's going to win the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam and his second straight chance at it, because you don't see him losing twice. They're not going to bury him that way. So he's going to win that at SummerSlam. There's a lot of different angles they can go with this. And the best part about wrestling today, Korrey, is that, because you got Shawn Michaels running NXT, you got Triple H running the main roster. These are guys who have done it at the top level and for a very long time and know how to tell stories. Despite what was going on with VKM, and he built it to what it was before things started, slipping at the wayside. He did a great job in building the foundation. But now we are seeing the best type of storytelling and pure wrestling on the upper card now than what pretty much in comparison to what we saw back in the Attitude Era. A few years from now, we can't say it yet. You and I were having a similar discussion one of the last times we were together talking about, we can't really say it yet, but 4, 5, 6 years from now, we're going to look back on this era and truly be able to compare it to the Attitude Era, and we'll be able to answer our questions then if it was better than the Attitude Era. I think we're living in a special era, and what's special about it is the people who are telling the story, who are part of it, whether they're writing it or they're the performers themselves, were involved with the Attitude Era one way or another, whether it was watching it on the TV as a fan or those who are writing it because they were living it back in those days anyway. And some of the talent are children of talent who were a part of all that. So there's a lot of full circle things that are going on within WWE right now. Chad Gable is making his mark and deserves different opportunities as time goes on for what he's done. But it's Bo Dallas, in my opinion, the brother of Bray Wyatt, who's going to propel this faction to a new level. I see where you're going with Bray, and he's done what he can, but now he's inspiring. His legacy from before is inspiring. Unfortunately, the day that he passed away, he unfortunately has nothing to do with it anymore when we want to really break it down. Does he influence it? Absolutely. Can a part of his story still be told with it? Absolutely. But the drive and the will to make this what it is lives on through the people who are going to tell it. And so far, they're doing a great job. I think they got to work with the entrance a little bit more. We'll get into that at another time. But other than that, overall, I'm very happy with what I'm seeing. And as a fan of the man that you and I talked about in our opening statements, for his legacy and to put closure to it, like legitimate to it, like that's what we're getting here. We're getting closure with the character because it was an abrupt ending.
Oh, yeah.
You and I talked about the day that happened. We were like, it was like losing one of
our day.
It was like losing one of our brothers, man, because you and I had talked about the man so much, and other people had talked about him, so much too. And there's people that you and I, I've had a couple people on this show or other shows that actually maybe not knew him as a friend like you and I, but, no, we didn't know him, but you and I known each other like that, but knew of him or worked around him or had some type of conversation. He made another type of impact on their life. So this was a trickle-down effect, domino effect that affected so many different people. But the fact that today, over a year later after everything happened, that you and I get to have a topic on this show and still talk about the story, like it's still relevant. He is still, in a way, relevant, even though he cannot physically make an impact on the story anymore, which is where I was going with it. He is still very much a part of it. It's just in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly. You're right. This section we won't disagree on, and we've had long, strenuous conversations about him and his ability to tell stories, and that was what was missing. I can't help but to think, like, what would have happened if Triple H had been in charge of this the whole time? Without all the hokiness and all that crazy stuff, because I mean, I believe he was out there with his thoughts. I believe it, right? Triple H clearly said he's one of those people that is always thinking, and you have to kind of keep him focused because he's always thinking ahead, and sometimes his ideas get a little bit too boisterous. So you got to be able to reel him in. But one of the points you made real quick, Drew, that I really wanted to point out is that not only does Shawn Michaels and Triple H understand the business because they've done it before, they understand today's time. They are not so out of touch that they cannot adapt to today's time. So hence like the holiday season last year, those wrestlers weren't working during the holidays. They were at home with their families, which is what it should be. You know, they don't have as many live events anymore as they used to, the way it should be. You know, they understand that these people want more flexibility in their lives to do different things. Like, you know, when Zelina Vega got fired over doing something extra to make some more money. I mean, what? Like in today's world, like, bro, it's totally different, you know? But anyways, we ain't talking about that clown. He gone. But as far as this thing goes, I definitely agree with you. Taylor is beyond inspired, and you can tell it in his promos. You can tell it in his hand gestures. You can tell it in how he's going about this. And I can't wait to see what happens. I think that entrance thing we talking about too, I think that's going to be fixed at SummerSlam. If you think about it, Bray Wyatt was the original Bray Wyatt debuted at SummerSlam against Kane in that Ring of Fire match. The Fiend debuted at SummerSlam against Finn Balor. Now, who's to say we don't get Uncle Howdy versus Chad Gable at SummerSlam, which is the reason why they have not done anything else with the entrance yet.
Okay. So, do you think this is similar to Firefly Funhouse Bray, where we were seeing different parts of him coming out as himself at that point and then working his way into the Fiend at certain points in the matches? Because there were some matches where he was wrestling like as himself in this getup right here. Okay. The Mr. Rogers comparison. Okay.
Yep.
Do you think we're going to see potential, you know, reincarnations of that with Bo Dallas showing? Because he's already been doing that with certain, you know, certain segments on the show. And then, you know, we see him reappear as Uncle Howdy. So do you think we could see a little bit of that, you know, retelling that type of story from Bray Wyatt?
Think back to the first interview of the Wyatt Sicks, the second part of the first interview. Him and Uncle Howdy was saying the same thing towards the end of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says something about the reckoning. Uncle Howdy says, I am the reckoning. You know, they're basically telling you that Taylor and Uncle Howdy is the same. Everything that you see is played out in the Firefly Funhouse. When you think about the Firefly Funhouse, it was directly deprived from Bray's mind, which made me mad when people were able to go to the Firefly Funhouse, because that was the way that he caged the Fiend in. That's what people don't understand. The Firefly Funhouse was his mental block to keep the evil from coming up front. That way he can open the door and, for lack of better terms, let him in when he needed to. And that's the thing with this situation here. Think about it. All the therapist things, stuff of that nature. This is a clear look at someone who's hurt, someone who's experienced a lot of pain, and has decided to utilize their pain in a way to free others. And I think that's what you're looking at here.
Yeah, and you bring up a very great point with that. You know, your last statement, you were kind of rolling with something that I had said. I'm going to do the same thing with this, because this is one of our favorite topics right here, talking about Bray Wyatt. You know, looking back on the part where you were upset when people were coming into the Firefly Funhouse, because that was like his zone. You know, that was protecting himself, you know, basically preparing himself for what he was going to do outside. Okay. At the beginning, I was thinking it was more along like an imagination of these people. Like they weren't really like, because we were seeing the puppets and all that. We already knew what that was, right? That was already part of the imagination of him seeing it, like, you know, and then the people actually showing up, like, especially the John Cena Firefly Funhouse, because when you talk about let him in, he let in You Can't See Me into the Firefly Funhouse. So that whole story right there, if there was any of it that I was not going to get upset with, I kind of understood letting him in there, because you let him into the Firefly Funhouse and then you expletive him up in the head with how it ended. Okay. So if we're going to look at anything and say we can't get upset about that, we can't get upset about John Cena. The way that they told the whole Alexa Bliss story and how that ended, I will side with you on that and say that was jacked up. they might as well have not have let her in because it didn't help the storyline. I think things started to really start to go downward when they let her in, even though when they brought her in, they thought that it was going to help propel it. But ultimately, in my opinion, things started to go downhill when they let her in. So that's why when they were talking about reincarnating the Wyatt Sicks, or not reincarnating, but reincarnating the Bray Wyatt story into the Wyatt Sicks, I was like, keep her away from it. Bringing in Nikki Cross, as Sister Abigail, or a Sister Abigail-like character, that right there is perfect in comparison to bringing back Alexa Bliss, because if it doesn't work the second time, it's like hooking up with an ex. It doesn't work the second time around, okay? If it didn't work the first time around, it sure as hell ain't going to work the second time around. All right? Let's just be 100 when it comes to that, all right? I know we're going back and forth on some of these topics, but you know retreads don't work, bro.
Nah, we ain't doing that. We don't circle the block right here. No circling the block. No circling the block.
My man, we got some comments we got to get to. We could talk about Bray Wyatt all night in the story, but we still have a couple other topics we got to get to in this episode. And Sick Diggy comes in and says, I'm out unless Chad Gable can bring out the mean streak in the Creed brothers. I don't see the angle working for either faction. Plus, Otis turning heel and joining the new Alpha Academy could help.
No. Now, what I will say they kind of messed up with Otis is I felt like him and Chad should end up having a match.
Yes.
To establish him.
Mm-hmm.
And what all they did to build to that, with him turning his quote unquote back on them and Otis finally standing up to him, I think that should have turned into something bigger for Otis. I think that's where they messed up at. But I mean, you know, working out for either faction, that's why I feel like they left the Creed brothers out per se until recently, because this is focused on Chad, not the Creeds.
This is why I'm starting to think that some of these stories are rushed a little bit, and they leave some of these things open when they create stuff, that they leave it to where it's open for them to tweak it as time goes on. And some of these parts of the storyline are rushed because the amount of time that Chad Gable spent with, you know, and Otis spent together in the Alpha Academy, I'm with you. They should have absolved that story beforehand to where there was enough time for him to rejoin it if they were ever to go to that point. But some of this stuff is rushed together to the point that where people are thinking that even the WrestleMania story with Korrey, with Cody, and the way that some of that stuff was rushed too, because it was changed on the fly, and you see all that with the documentary. So maybe, you know, we honestly weren't going to get Uncle Howdy until after the Bray Wyatt documentary came out, and things started to abruptly come about as, you know, the passion and the drive for Bo Dallas to return and bring this story. Plus, you didn't even have Eric Rowan available because I think he was still part of AEW or TNA or whatever before he even came back, you know, to be a part of this whole Wyatt Sicks deal. So looking at all that, a lot of things were pieced together, I think, last minute. So, you know, I see your point here, Sick, but, you know, I also see Korrey's too, where they didn't really do all this with enough time to set all that up. There's not enough available for them to work that story angle into this situation. Now, I think that the best thing to do is just to keep them separated and leave them be at this point. How much heat could Gable and the Creeds draw on their own? I mean, not as much as what they're getting with the Wyatt Sicks. The Wyatt Sicks are actually propelling them to a new level, I would say. I would, you know, we could argue that. But, you know, Chad Gable's done some pretty good things, and he helped build up Sami Zayn for that Intercontinental Championship run, even though Sami Zayn had a lot of momentum. Looking at that and here and now, what's going to be interesting to see if Chad Gable can truly, you know, build up the Creeds to where they need to be at, because they got the talent, but they're lacking some of the personality and the mic skills, in my opinion, to get them to the level to where everybody wants to see them at.
I mean, it's the same thing. It's the new age team angle. So that's what we're looking at right now.
Absolutely. And I don't have the faith in Bo Dallas. Believe. Sick Diggy. Korrey slumping back. He's feeling some type of way. I love it. I believe in Bo Dallas and the Wyatt Sicks. The other one said, I don't have faith in Bo Dallas. Believe. And then I do believe in Bo Dallas and the Wyatt Sicks. Well, make up your mind, bro, because when it comes to that, Sick diggy. When it comes to that.
Stop it. Get some help.
Because one answer, you're on one side, and the other, you're on another. And when it comes to that was total.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Need you to get back on track, bro. You just confused the expletive out of me. All right, now back to what you were saying. If the sides were even, could we see the Wyatt Sicks and the Alpha Academy in a 6-man or 8-man tag match? Could we? Absolutely. Should we? No. Like they need to work out new stories, new angles, especially with us getting closer and closer to Netflix. We need to start with some fresher stories that we could be seeing evolve into even bigger things when you get to a platform like Netflix, to where you don't really have to censor but so much. So
I mean, look at the basis of the Wyatt Sicks now. The basis of the Wyatt Sicks is people who are thrown away, looked at less than, and people who were betrayed by their family. I'm gonna leave it there.
Absolutely. There it is. So they're going to keep on building within that. And that's a really good story point. That's a really good point right there. To further Korrey's point, HBK and Triple H understand that the talents need to be kept healthy and happy. VKM got away with too much erratic behavior in the final year or so of his tenure. Can anybody say yowie wowie?
I love it.
Yeah, I miss those parts too when we used to do that. Also, I want to say, shoosh! Don't nobody do the Muscle Man dance.
What?
I don't ever want to see anybody do the Muscle Man dance again, because Bray Wyatt did it in his unique way. I don't ever want to see anybody try to replicate that. If they try to get this as a part of the storyline and Bo Dallas mini version of the Muscle Man dance, I will definitely look at this whole storyline differently and be disappointed.
Facts. Yeah, no, I think they're too locked in on this is the realism. This isn't that supernatural crap you used to like. People see the best version of themselves when they're able to put when they put a mask on, they're able to do things that they normal selves could never do. So I think it's kind of cool how they're approaching it now.
Absolutely. I'm 100% with you on that. And just as Stream Elements is telling you, subscribe now and never miss out on new content. If you are new to this channel, we got some great current content. And what you saw in the commercial break earlier, looks like, introduction to something else here pretty soon. So you got to stay tuned. You never know what's going to appear on your screen out here on these streams. We still have 2 more great rounds to get to. With that being said, let's go ahead and take this into round 4 and take a look at the By the Numbers segment for episode 117.
Round 4.
And here for 117, Josh Allen is the greatest athlete to ever wear the number 17 in all of sports history. Thinking about sports history, and many times you and I have discussed the greatest number in sports history, and now we're on the number 17. It's back around the circle to the beginning, okay? And you and I didn't talk about this, early on, because you weren't here for episode 17. It was Darrell when we first started this unit out. I believe you were here for, was it 15?
15, I think. 15,
yeah. Well, the Vault of Fame would tell us, but yeah, 15. So looking at this number right here, episode 17. In episode 117, who's your greatest ever wear? Is it Josh Allen? Are you in, or are you going to disagree and go out?
I am. Of course I'm out. What you mean? Hey, before I give a shout out to my guy Kyle Nash, Black Jesus is on the way back. But I am going to go off the loop here, Drew. I'm going to see if you are on the same page with me at this. We said the best athlete, right?
Yes.
We're looking at the person that is the best at what they do, or could potentially be considered as the best at what they do. So you have some, honorable mentions, Phillip Rivers and some others that wore 17. But there was one generational talent that stood out to me when I was doing my research for this episode, sir. And that person, and who I believe will end up being the greatest, is Shohei Ohtani of the LA Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani is 30 years old. He's already 30. 2024 season stats. He's at 314 batting average, 32 home runs, 76 RBIs, and an on-base percentage of 1.043, second in all of baseball, which is crazy. This man can go and hit a ball all the way to Saturn, and then he can go and throw a shutout, which is insane. Okay? Some of his career highlights: a 2-time Silver Slugger, 2-time MVP, a Hank Aaron Award winner, Rookie of the Year, and the biggest thing, glaring thing that he's missing is his World Series title. He's missing it, and he's going to need a few, honestly, to be considered as the GOAT in baseball, right? To be in that conversation, you're going to need a few world titles. You're going to. If you don't have it, you can forget it. You'll just be a great talent, not like the one to be considered as one of the greatest. But to have someone of that stature at 30 years old, been in the league 7 years, and has put up the type of numbers that he has been able to put up consistently. I believe that was a year where he got injured, where he had to have TJ. But other than that, Ohtani shows up. Plus, this man has the richest contract in baseball history with 20 years and $700 freaking million, right? Where he, for 10 years, is going to make $2 million in base salary. And then after that, they're going to pay him in increments per year, 60-something plus $1 million, $64, $65 million, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So he has taken and elevated baseball to a different level because of his ability to do multiple things. Now, what is one of the arguments or one of the critiques of baseball, Mr. Willingham, is that baseball is boring. Is it not? It's one of the critiques of it.
Unless you're playing it. You know, if you're playing it.
Touche. Yeah. But if I'm a person watching it, and if I'm not a lifelong fan and I want to get onto a new sport, I'm probably not going to go and look at baseball first.
True.
I probably will go to pickleball before I do baseball right now. And that's just keeping it real. Keeping it real. I probably will, right? What are these guys doing? Swing, miss. Baseball needs to find ways to modernize themselves like the NFL has, like the NBA has. I mean, we know about soccer. Soccer is just worldwide. Like, so many different sports have adjusted. I mean, look at the WNBA. Look at the WNBA if you need an example. Look at them. The new deals they're getting, the amount of money they get ready to get. They're about to get paid. You hear me? Paid. Those women are about to elevate real quick. And they can thank those newer women that came into the league too. But that's another conversation for another day. As far as it goes to number 17, Mr. Willingham, I am going to select Mr. Shohei Ohtani. The floor is yours.
Bring up some really, really good points. I'm going to agree with you on this and say that I'm out on Josh Allen being the greatest to ever wear the number 17. Looking back on this, Darrell and I talked about this on episode 17, and I was very, very heavily for Shohei Ohtani getting the number 17. And for that, I'm going to agree with you on this and be out, but also choose Ohtani because he's doing it from multiple angles. You know, most people are either a hitter as a DH to make an impact on the game and then play in the field defensively, or you're a pitcher. You don't primarily do it as a guy who can hit home runs, but also strike you out with a 95 plus per hour fastball and have multiple accolades in the highest of all levels of professional baseball on both sides. You know, the last person to do that was Babe Ruth, and he wasn't playing in an era like today. It's harder to accomplish that stuff in today's era. You're playing more games, and you're playing against guys who are way more talented and don't have this as a second job that they're doing for fun to make a little extra money. And then those who are a small percentage, maybe like 5 or 10% of the overall players in the league back then, could afford to play the game and not have another full-time job or use it as a secondary job. You know, now people are true professionals. And Shohei Ohtani is absolutely crushing it. The key words you said, though, are when his career is over, when you first started saying it, like, he's not fully there yet. So if we were going to say anybody who deserves to have it at this point over Shohei Ohtani, I do have a few honorable mentions. I'm going to start it off first with somebody who, spent a lot of time in the NBA, 17 seasons to be exact, from 62 to 78 during a pretty hard era for the Celtics, and that is John Havlicek. You look at what he did with the Celtics. Was he the primary player, that made like the huge impact to where they wouldn't have won without him? No, but he played with Bill Russell and was a part of some legendary teams. That he was an 8-time NBA champion. Okay, that's 8 times that he held the trophy back in the day. He's probably my first honorable mention, and I got 3 of them. So my next one that I would say after that would be, sticking with baseball, somebody who played for 17 seasons, somebody who was a part of 2 World Series championships, one in 1982 with the Cardinals and the other in 1986 with that Mets team that was fueled on cocaine, that being Keith Hernandez. Okay, 2-time World Series champion, first baseman. Made an impact with those 2 teams, probably more of an impact than Havlicek made in the 8 championships that he won, but still was a part of something special and deserves to be on this list. Another one in the game of football, sticking with the game of football, but around the time and the era that Keith Hernandez played in, somebody who happened to play for my team, now known as the Commanders, but formerly known as the Redskins. I'm going to go with the first black man to win the Super Bowl as a champion as a quarterback. Okay, the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl in NFL history, Doug Williams. That was who I'm going with. He is the first one to do it. He has a Super Bowl championship, not the first one to start in a Super Bowl, but the first one to win a Super Bowl championship. And I've met him, doing some media, over the years, with the formerly known as the Redskins, with the formerly Legacy Maker, which you can go see, the episode we did earlier today. You can go see it on Legacy Maker Sports Network or on Bowie TV. I'll talk about more about that at the end. But anyway, I've met him a couple times, small talk, not like we're having an episode right now for an hour and a half, but, a few words in the elevator once. And, he's down to earth dude. You wouldn't have ever thought, just running into him in the street, that he's accomplished what he has. And he did all that in a very short window. Okay. Because he played with the Buccaneers in the late 70s, had to play in the USFL for a little bit, came back to the NFL. We already know about the Doug Williams story, but if I'm going to agree with you, and I can't really add to so much because you said a lot of it to describe Shohei Ohtani, I wanted to at least use that time to describe 3 honorable mentions who we could say to piggyback off the part that says when your career is over, because you said those words. He still hasn't won a World Series. That still kind of keeps, if he retired today, no, he would not be the greatest to wear 17. But if things continue on the trajectory of what it is, and what it is right now, and he gets that World Series or 2, and he's doing it as a pitcher and as a hitter. If he can't pitch this year because he had an injury that he had to have surgery for over the past offseason, but it doesn't keep him from DHing, so he's still able to hit. He's just very limited, but he's still crushing it, with still an all-star selection as a DH, doing his job, earning his money, and he still hasn't even pitched as a Dodger yet. We'll see that in 2025. So everything's going to start coming into fruition for the latter half of the 2020s. By the end of it, everything that you just said will have some other layers to it, and we'll definitively be able to say he's the greatest. But I'm going to agree with you on that. As long as he doesn't retire anytime soon and keeps adding to the allure of Shohei Ohtani, we're going to see that happen, and he's going to be the greatest to wear 17. But right now, in my opinion, if he did retire, it'd be a toss-up between Havlicek, Hernandez, and Doug Williams, battling it out and duking it out in a trios edition match to determine who is the greatest to wear 17 as of right now.
I mean, I would say you have to add Phillip Rivers into that, though. For what he has meant, for what he has done in that quarterback position during the era where you had Brady and Manning and a few others, that was kind of, I feel like now we're really getting into the golden age of quarterbacks, and that's a conversation you and I can have another day. But during an era of quarterbacks where he wasn't really as recognized as probably he should have, with over 46,000 yards in his career. You know, a lot of people don't make it that far. I think he needs to be like an honorable mention. Now, would he be the one that I end up selecting? No. You know, he hasn't really done much, you know, postseason wise. I believe he's been to maybe one AFC championship game, if I remember correctly. But, you know, he's never gotten to the big one. So I can't really consider that, you know. But I think he should be considered. But your points is definitely valid. It's kind of hard because number 17, there isn't like one person that absolutely stands out from everyone else. And we can just like unequivocally say that's going to be the best right now. You know, we're doing this based off of what future projections is for Shohei. So we'll see.
I don't know if I can put Phillip Rivers up there because even though he had some regular season accolades, he never won a Super Bowl. And everybody that we just talked about, as far as the three people I brought up, have at least one championship in the sport that they play. And Havlicek had, 4 times the amount that Keith Hernandez did. Keith Hernandez still had 2, and Keith Hernandez had twice the amount Doug Williams had. But Doug Williams means more because of what he did for his culture in the moment as well. So there's a lot of different things that we could bring to the table for all of them. I think if I'm going to disagree with you on anything we've said here in this topic, I will at least have to say it'll be Phillip Rivers. And with that being said, let's see what we got here in the comments section. Sick Diggy with the look on his face. What is up with the look on his face right here? And that was 13 minutes ago. Sick, when we were getting started with this topic right here. What's the emoji for? Let us know. He says, I'm out as well. Josh Allen is a great athlete, but not the best to wear number 17. So he agrees with us that it's not Josh Allen. But let us know here in the comments who you think it actually is, Sick. We're going to go to our last commercial break before we go to the last segment of the show. And when we come back, we got a little bit more professional wrestling for you guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you here in about 2.5 minutes.
I remember that I am the color red in a world full of black and white. There you are. You should run.
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the evening.
This Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern, 10:05 a.m. Central, on the SIRTOBA Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers right now. side, right side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Left side, left side.
Welcome back to the Inter-Out Sports Debate, episode 117. I am your host, Drew Willingham, along with my man, Korrey Mann, back. 6-time Vault of Fame inductee, as we've gone through 4 great rounds. There's some interesting commercials that have popped up and taken over our episode tonight, man. Looking forward to seeing what develops with all of that out here in these streams. We got one more development in this episode. We have to take it to the final round.
Final round.
And with the final round, Roman Reigns will return at SummerSlam, and so will The Rock. When it comes to this topic right here, Korrey, how are you feeling? Are you going to agree with this one? Are you going to go in, or are you going to go out on this?
This one's so hard, but I'm going to go in on it. For Christ's sake, it is the biggest party of the summer. You got to do something that is big. Rumors went out today that Charlotte Flair is back at the PC, getting herself ready to go. So I would expect Charlotte pretty soon. Alexa has been, training and whatnot. What facet she may come back in, who knows? But she's on her way back in. And let's talk about this good old bloodline, juicy bloodline story. Now, there are so many different ways still that they can go with this bloodline situation. You're looking at Roman coming back. He's going to be the babyface in this situation, hands down. But the outlier in this situation is The Rock. And I think The Rock takes this final boss character very seriously. Now, while Solo Sikoa has been allowed, and key word here is allowed, to be the tribal chief right now, he does have to get the blessings of the elders of the Anoa'i family in order to become the tribal chief. Who does that actual blessing come from? So, rest in peace to Roman Reigns' father, who recently passed away. Who do you think is on that quote-unquote family committee now, for lack of better terms? I can think of a certain person. He just finished filming his cage fight movie, his MMA movie, and it is more than likely that both of them will show up. But let's take a turn on this, right? We know eventually The Rock is going to turn on Roman. They got to have that match. They got to have it, right? What better than next year's WrestleMania? You don't need that title. It's a great story all on its own. Here's the thing. The Rock comes back on Roman's side to give Roman the Shield treatment once again. Roman's continual trauma is biting him in his piglets. And this is so I can keep it PG here on this show because we're a family show. But I want to make sure that we understand what is about to happen here. A breakdown of family civil war. It's about to be as worse as we have ever seen it. You think The Rock beat the crap out of Cody was bad? Wait until what happens when Roman shows back up. It is going to be a story of epic proportions. But to answer the question that you have asked, dear sir, I think they both do show up at SummerSlam.
You bring a lot of great points to that. And I can see that going that way. But to keep things interesting for the sake of debate, I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to go out. You said they got to do big things because it's SummerSlam. I'm with you on that. But I think they got a lot of big stuff cooking already to where they don't necessarily need The Rock to show up at SummerSlam to build to WrestleMania. Okay, because they still have plenty of time to do that. They can do that by Survivor Series. It's already built enough layers already that they could either go that direction, or they can go where they have Cody and The Rock at WrestleMania. There's different angles that they can move around when it comes to that. I think that there's so much available within that story that they're not going to shove that down our throats, because we already got something different than what they originally planned at WrestleMania, to where something that might necessarily been the right thing to do originally was shoved down our throats around WrestleMania season. Okay. So I want to make that point right there. But you do bring some great points to that. But I just think that we already have a lot brewing and a lot of different things between the WWE Championship, between the World Heavyweight Championship, with the tag championships on both, shows, the women's titles as well. You got so much brewing. Even the U.S. and Intercontinental Championship are the hottest they've been in quite some time, based on what Gunther did to elevate the Intercontinental Championship. But you've also got the U.S. Championship that people want to see be taken off of Logan Paul because of the way he got it and the amount of times that he's defended it and all that, within that storyline. So there's multiple different angles that are going to make SummerSlam hot. And there's other returns that you could bring to SummerSlam that, if The Rock comes back at SummerSlam, it could overshadow them a little bit. So even though I like what you said, I'm going to disagree on it mainly for that factor. However, I'm going to throw some other elements to it that, if it does go your way and The Rock, shows up, I think that something could be a little different. I think that even though on screen somebody is pulling the string, is doing, Solo Sikoa is the tribal chief on screen and acting, I think somebody put him up to it, and it wasn't anybody that's in the current bloodline. I think it was The Rock. And if The Rock does return in the fashion that you say he could, and potentially with the Usos reuniting because they are brothers, on the good side, and then I would love to see Lance get in there. It'd be awesome. But, my guys in the wrestling realm have told me, especially in their last episode they were with, I believe it was 108, right after yours, that they don't see, Lance making it to this stage, at least right now. A year or two from now, different story. But right now, with as much as they got cooking in the bloodline, there's other angles they could go. Hikulelu, the Tongan's other brother, is still an option they could bring in. The younger Fatu, I can't remember his name, Zilla Fatu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is another person they could bring in too, especially if they want to have him align with the good side or potentially even the bad side. But Jacob Fatu is so destructive. It's like they added 2 or 3 more members when they added him in there because of his skill set and what they can do. So they can do a lot with the current, Bloodline 2.0, however you want to call them, the off-brand bloodline, whatever you want to call them, okay? Because they're not fully legitimate, because Roman and the Usos have nothing to do with it, and Paul Heyman was treated like trash and discarded. There's, a lot of different ways we can go about that. If it's not a matter of if Roman returns, it's going to be with whom. If The Rock returns with Roman at SummerSlam, I don't see much they can do to build that, unless it is like what you said with the Shield moment, where The Rock could turn on him by the end of the night. And then, in basically showing that he's been helping propel behind the scenes this Bloodline 2.0 with Solo, that eventually I think Jacob's going to turn on him and take over the group and lead them without Solo. And then Solo is going to be literally Solo without anybody at that point and fighting on his own. And then they'll have to figure out how they're going to do that storyline. But there's a lot of different ways they can go with it. I just think that they have so many different angles they can go with it right now that they don't necessarily need The Rock to do anything with it right now. Let them bring Roman back, figure out who this new incarnation of what he's going to do with it, because he's not going to have enough necessarily to do this with himself and the Usos and Heyman being his mouthpiece, because it is Solo and 3 others. It's a 4-man group going on. The numbers just don't add up. I don't see them bringing The Rock back, though, unless it's for a run similar to what we got at WrestleMania, where he was there a couple months prior, and they're consistently, except for a few weeks off for other obligations, like the beginning of the UFL and so on and so forth. I don't see them bringing him back for like a one-off appearance, because between the end of SummerSlam and what Survivor Series being the next big pay-per-view at the end of this year, because there's 4 big pay-per-views in the calendar year: Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, now SummerSlam, then Survivor Series. It's just always been that way. There's not enough going on between now and what would be Survivor Series, which is usually team action, that I don't see him getting involved in a consistent storyline similar to the WrestleMania timeline until we get back to the Royal Rumble like we had this past year and him setting up something for WrestleMania. We really don't need The Rock to appear until January to set himself up for the WrestleMania appearance. And all that can be around the time that they appear on Netflix and they move, SmackDown to USA and all the stuff that's going to be happening between now and the end of this year. So there's so many moving chess pieces right now that's the biggest reason why I'm going to disagree with you on this and say that I'm out on this. You bring some very valid points, and I could see what you just said actually coming to fruition and being true. I just have a feeling that what I just said, there's going to be a lot more layers coming from that can come into fruition before yours does too.
Well, see, and like I said, it goes back to that main point, right? I definitely agree with you. It's so many different angles they can go in, and that is the beauty of this era that we're in right now, right? You can try to guess all day long. The insider said this, the dirt sheet said this. You have no idea which way these people are going to go and what they're going to do. And I mean, you definitely bring up a valid point of bringing The Rock back because, a lot of people may have had issues when The Rock came back, with them overshadowing people. And if you're trying to bring back and establish your stars, such as the ones I mentioned, Bliss, Flair, even Jimmy Uso, he's going to get a pop when he gets back, whether people realize it or not. He's going to get one. Figuring out how to get Jay into the situation, is going to be another thing. But it's just leading into the biggest bloodbath of a war. And as you said, I didn't think about this too, Drew, is that Netflix is going to allow them to do whatever they want to do come in January. There is no limitations. So at that point, like, oh my God, what are we going to see? It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting.
I'm jealous that we didn't have something like this back when we were kids, because can you imagine the Attitude Era being on Netflix uncensored in a lot of the moments? Sable, all the different things, like with the I'm thinking like I'm going back to like teenage mind back then, like the cat and all the different things. Like, yeah, man, the other kind of wrestling, like the mud wrestling. Yeah, I'm trying to keep this family oriented, but you know exactly where I'm coming from when it comes to that. But they could take us down similar paths now that we're on Netflix. It's not gonna be like X-rated or anything, but it's gonna it could be flirting with the lines, blurring it between the lines. But you bring up very valid points. We'll see, more blood, and stuff that they want to censor from TV. I don't think we're gonna see a situation like AEW had last week on Dynamite with blood and guts, where you had Jack Perry taking the headshot. It's been all over the news. Like, it's been all over the headlines, YouTube, you name it. People talking about it because of where they've been with CTE and concussions, over the past 20 years, especially after, heartbreaking situations to the world of wrestling where wrestlers lose their mind and do bad things, and they circle it back to CTE. And the biggest thing that they think is causing it is the chair shots, like they are. Mm-hmm. And you see with what happened there, it all comes back to, yes, I think we'll see a little bit more on Netflix, but we're not going to see anything like that. And they got very lucky that they were allowed to get away with something like that on major cable, like on TNT, where TNT just lost their basketball contract. So the only thing they really got right now is AEW. So you're going to lose that too if you keep doing shots like that. So they're about to lose all their sports and entertainment. They keep up with stuff like that. AEW, if they don't get some type of severe, fine or some type of punishment and getting off scot-free, they're very lucky. But I do know that even though they're taking this to Netflix and they can do a little bit more, they will not be able to do stuff like that. Yeah. Because they still want the health and the future of everybody to be intact.
Absolutely. I think it's more so just so they can say what they want to say.
Yes. Yes. The censorship and all that to go away, but the safety, like doing their best to keep everybody safe, none of that changes, but they'll be able to elevate the storylines, especially with their verbiage, a lot better than what we're limiting ourselves to when it comes to being on YouTube. But definitely great stuff right there with the final round, my man. And we got some other comments here in the chat. Sick Diggy is absolutely crushing it, as always. Says, for Roman Reigns to return, he's going to need to bring along some backup. So he's with us when he's saying that. He says, the only elder left are Alpha Senior, below him are Rikishi, Tonga Kid, / Tama, Samu, Lloyd, Alpha Jr., Mini, as well as Haku. So, and Roman Reigns is on the level of Alpha Senior, because of the way the storyline is and the way that they have displayed him in that family, even outside of WWE, since all that's been going on. So, all that's going to come into how the story plays out here very, very soon. We got SummerSlam this Saturday, which is why I wanted to make sure you were here beforehand. We'll get into a little bit more of that for the final word here in a minute. But Tonga Kid / Tama is the twin brother of Rikishi, as well as the father of Justice and Jacob Fatu. Absolutely. My question is, who could be in Roman Reigns' camp if he were to return? The Usos, Lance Anoa'i, ? He says Hikuleo has recently signed with WWE.
He did.
Those are the things that we were talking about around that time when you were commenting with that stuff. So you're on the same page as us. Let's not forget that Jey Uso is on Raw while everybody else is on SmackDown. Plus, they're trying to build up a storyline between Jey and Rhea Ripley. Yeah, but, this storyline has been hot for 4 years plus, since Roman Reigns came back at SummerSlam in 2020. Okay. This is also big we talked about it earlier about Bray Wyatt debuting at SummerSlam when he won the championship at SummerSlam 2020, when he returned at SummerSlam 2020. That was when this whole bloodline story began. It was when it started, and we wouldn't be where we're at today. So that's why it's kind of a full circle moment that he returns 4 years later at SummerSlam to start the next chapter of what the bloodline is, with him involved in it, because we haven't seen him since he lost the title at WrestleMania. So now when it comes to Jey Uso on Raw, very valid point, but it hasn't stopped WWE before between bouncing people back and forth to shows. And if it's beneficial for the ratings, for this bloodline civil war that they're going to create, I feel like one way or another, he might not be there every week, but for whatever pay-per-view they decide to make this at, because they could be building this up to where one of the Survivor Series matches is Bloodline versus Bloodline. Because they got team versus team all the time. This could be something we could see, it starts this Saturday, but these Bloodline Civil War, we don't get to see the entirety of it. We'll get to see pieces here with some individual matches, maybe, and some tag team matches, and some little BS stuff here and there. But we're not going to see the actual Civil War or cage match Civil War or whatever we want to really truly see until Survivor Series. They're going to take a few months to build this up like it's a WrestleMania match.
I think you can see something as soon as Bad Blood in October. Now that they're bringing it back. Now that they're bringing it back, instead of having the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view that should have never been there in the first place, they're bringing back Bad Blood. Bad Blood, total definition of what is going on in the bloodline right now. Total definition.
Okay, I can see that happening. I can see that happen too. But maybe they don't get it all out at Bad Blood. Maybe it culminates at Survivor Series, or they get enough of it out the tank at Survivor Series to where they can go their separate ways. But they'll find ways to get back, and battle each other throughout. This is only the beginning of this, my man. I don't think we're going to see it end at Bad Blood, but I can agree with you and say we might see the first big match at Bad Blood. So I'm with you on that. Also, Jimmy Uso has been out for a couple months, yes, but that's usually how big returns are started. Plus, you could easily say that he was kind of underutilized in the last incarnation of that, but it could be also punishment for how he's behaved in these streets, because he's gotten in some trouble, when it comes to some DUIs and other things over the years. He's lucky to be a part of the bloodline as long as he had been, for one, but also to not be kicked out, because I think he got 2 DUIs in the span of the bloodline storyline. So looking at that, he's a lucky person, because not everybody like ourselves can do that out here in these streets multiple times and still keep our full-time career, or at least expect to, without any type of repercussion. So you're a very lucky dude. And he meant to say Journey and Jacob Fatu earlier. It's all good there, Sick Diggy. Appreciate you chiming in with the facts. But now that we've gone through 5 great rounds of this show, there's something that we do every single episode. It is at that point now in this episode, as we have to look back at the Vault of Fame. We got another induction.
Acknowledge me.
And that's right. The Inner Out Sports Debate Vault of Fame welcomes Korrey Mann for the 7th time on episode 117. He has now gone from a 6-time to a 7-time Vault of Fame inductee, moving up from 5th place to tie Darrell Owens for 4th place with 7 appearances, right behind Kyle Nash with 13, Rob Johnson with 16, and Joey Raymond in first with 19. All this through 117 episodes. 44 people have been on the Inner Out Sports Debate within that span. And as always, you can check out this show and the others provided by SIRTOBA Media on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and X, as well as at SIRTOBA.com, where I'm hoping to update that website here very, very soon with some other news. As well, you can check this out, SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. We are back for episode 117. Korrey Mann, 7-time Vault of Fame inductee. Welcome back, as always, brother. And you know, when we go through all this stuff, we're now at the one part in the show where you get to let it all out the tank, and that is with the final word. You know, many times we've had this final word part, you know, through many episodes. The legendary one of your best final words was from episode 73, a very long time ago, which you were able to hear in the Vault of Fame earlier today, where you absolutely crushed it. But when it comes to anything we talked about on this show throughout the 5 rounds, or anything in sports or life or in general, it's time to let it out, my man, with the final word.
So I want to, you know, after having this great episode of the In or Out Sports Debate, talk to you all that are watching this, that are viewing this. I want you to understand something. Just because a chapter ends doesn't mean the story ends. And you have to realize that sometimes in life, you have to take a different route to get to where you want to go. Too many times in life, you know, especially in 2024, we live in this microwave age where we want to put it in the microwave for 30 seconds and get it right out. But we don't allow ourselves to go through the process of being mended, being welded together. And throughout that process, you can't do it on your own. You have to realize that sometimes, you know, it's great to walk alone, but the scenery is enjoyed better when you have different vantage points. And speaking of the scenery, a lot of the times when we are going through things in life, we don't realize what is really going on around us because we're so stuck on that one pothole on our journey. So I would encourage you all today, take a moment to look at what's around you. Enjoy the journey on the way to the destination. Stop at different landmarks and smell the air. Take in what you're seeing, what you're breathing. Life doesn't stop because of one thing. When you feel derailed, when you feel like you're not motivated, when you feel like maybe you're even lifeless, sometimes you got to lean on someone else and someone else to bring that greatness back out of you. So I would ask you today, look at that person next to you, reach out to that person that's next to you, tell them how much you care, be there for them, support each other. And then, man, get back out here in these streets and do what you do best. Do not allow someone else to stop you from achieving your greatness. And that is the final word that I have for today, sir.
Absolutely crushed it as always, my man. It's always an honor, joy, and privilege to get up here with you. SIRTOBA Media would not be what it is, you know, without you. You made an impact before it even became a thing. When it was, as I called it on one-on-one with Darrell last night or earlier today when it played, this used to be like the side piece, Legacy Maker Sports Network. I meant to say the sidekick. Okay, this used to be like my stamp of work. Okay, and now from the misquote that I had to, you know, what it is now. You encouraged me. Were one of the ones when I was down and out, encouraged me, you know, to do something with the name. and to make something of it. And it's because of the words of you being a friend and others as well. I wouldn't have had the drive to make this what it is. So before I get to my final word, and before apparently we've got a word coming in that before I can even give my final word, we got something else to show.
You should
run.
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
So your words, apparently, for what I'm getting in over the headset, sparked this last one. And as we're starting together, we got some business partners out here in these streams. Like to communicate things while we're live on the air.
What the hell is going on, man?
What between us talking about Bray Wyatt, between some what our producers in the background are saying to us here, we've seen some wild commercials tonight. I haven't even gotten to my final word yet. Like, they wanted me to play this instead of the final word, and I'm gonna take this and roll into my final word with this. First of all, Korrey, this has been another great episode. 7th time was an absolute blast. Looking forward to the next time, we can get up here, work together and keep doing this thing out here in these streams. Because like I was starting to tell you before, I was told over the headset and rudely interrupted to play this clip. But everything happens for a reason. You had some great words, some great inspirational words, some other non-mentioned material that you and I have been, have known to be part of back in the day. We didn't meet up and link up, on the In or Out Sports Debate. It was another project, Legacy on Fire, through Legacy Maker Sports Network, which I was talking about earlier today, was where you and I first met up, and everything kind of built from that. And if you want to see a little bit of that story and much more, you can go to Legacy Maker Sports Network and see this episode that aired earlier today before our show here. And you can check out my hour-long episode with Darrell, where we basically discussed, Legacy Maker in itself, my time there, and the creation of SIRTOBA Media and how things are looking as of right now and, the near future. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. You can't tell everybody everything, right? You gotta leave them hanging on. And that's what I've been doing, similar to what we've been talking about with professional wrestling tonight, planting seeds here and there. That's one thing I enjoy doing with shorts and reels, and some of them hit kind of big, some of them don't, but my way of thinking about it is, if one person watches the thing, then I succeeded. Okay. As much as I would love to get, hundreds, thousands of views every single episode, if one of them gets 10 views, the next one gets 100, and then we're back down to like 50, and it's, the inconsistency of it is better than being buried and not getting any views at all. Because I have seen people out there who put in a lot of work and don't get a single view at all. Like, it literally says 0 views for days until one person watches it. That's brutal. And at that point, you kind of got to reevaluate what you're doing. And it's more than one thing that's more likely affecting you from not getting the viewership. Okay. I appreciate each and every person, who have come onto this show. Like I said earlier, 44 different people. 45 will be next week when Big Jim is here to meet the 45th person through 118 episodes. But the ones who keep coming back, especially the ones who are in the top 5, like yourself, all of you 5 have made the biggest impact on not only this show, but most of you in that top 5 have made an impact on my life more than you realize. And SIRTOBA Media would not be what it is today without each and every single one of you and the hand that you have had into this show, whether it was the first 90 episodes on Legacy Maker Sports Network, where I still had 100% creative control over this show and created it myself, or the now 27 episodes that we've done since I started this thing up, with a couple others, but primarily myself a year ago. 2024, I had goals in mind, and some of them are starting to come into fruition right now. Even with what those producers were telling me over the headset with those little teasers we've seen throughout this episode, when that fully comes into fruition, you're going to see one of my biggest wishes that I've had for 2024 coming to fruition. And I can at least get the cat out of the bag now and say I have nothing to do with those shorts. Okay. Posting them, but the video itself and who they're from, that's who's going to be the big part of the story here and on the stage. And I look forward to that person who I've not only been encouraging to get back out there, to get back on the saddle again, but I've always left that door open to come here and be a part of this, because like Korrey said earlier, with other things that he's doing in his life that may not necessarily be content related, or may or may not be. That's up for him to elaborate on another time. You cannot do this all by yourself. There's no way. You have to have a team, one way, shape, or form. And you take the bumps that you learn from, the hard things that are a little tough to overcome in the moment, from what you experience along the way, part of the journey. But it's how you learn from them and react to them in a positive way, and take that as motivation to make the right choices going forward and to build on what you've already, achieved and add more layers to it. So I kind of wanted to piggyback a little bit on what Korrey said earlier with what he was talking about, but I also want to add a couple more things on my way out. Make sure you go back, if you're watching this on SIRTOBA Media, and check out episode 48 of Total Football Talk that aired earlier today with myself and Cole Johnson. As we talked about, Jordan Love becomes the highest paid NFL quarterback in history with $220 million Packers contract. You can also see on Bowie TV as well as Legacy Maker Sports Network, where I made my return to Legacy Maker Sports Network for the first time since we all know what happened. You can go back and watch Unveiling the Vault, the very first episode on this SIRTOBA Media channel, if you want to get the story. I don't have the time, and neither does Korrey, for me to go through that whole thing right now. But if you've been along the ride, you already know, and I touched base on it a little bit in this episode with Darrell. But for the first time since that event was the first time I was back on Legacy Maker today to discuss the story of SIRTOBA Media and its journey, as well as you're here right now for episode 117 of the In or Out Sports Debate. Again, an honor, joy, and privilege to be here with the man, Korrey Mann, the young man himself, as those in his life like to call him. Had one great episode here for 117 on July 29th, and we still have many more to go for what we were able to build on with this one and add to the legacy tonight, my man. It was definitely an honor, joy, and privilege, and we've only got one more thing left to do. And that is look at one semi-badass outro from my man, Korrey Mann. Time to put the ones up. Everyone, as always, please stay safe out here in these streets.
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
You don't have to go home, but you got to get yourself on up out of here. 117's in the books. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. And, as always, stay safe out here in these streets.